Well, around that time in the early 90s, I mean, that was really, one of the golden age for platform games, really. And around that time, I mean, there was a lot of innovation and good design that we saw, and everyone was aiming for, like, the next big thing. I mean, can you kind of remember any other platformers that you were looking at around that time that you thought really pushed new ideas?
Well, I was looking at Blackthorn from Interplay, and that was one I liked. And then, of course, Heart of the Alien was one of my favorites. I just like the cinematic flavor of it. I thought it was more focused on really having deep gameplay, where it was more you just kind of take your time, figure out where things are, and it was really learning from those games that I approached the design for Abe's Oddysee.
Yeah, except we're very atmospheric as well. I remember, the prequel to that. It was called Another World over here. I think it was Out of This World. In American Flashback as well, I remember being very cinematic.
Yeah, Flashback was another one, yeah. And then there was, of course, there was Heart of Darkness, which I got a copy of the demo disc at E3 for that game, and I had it on my desk almost religiously when I was designing Abe's Oddysee, because I thought that was going to be my main competition hitting the market. But that project kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed, and then Abe's Oddysee actually came out before it.
I mean, there was a lot of changes in terms of game design, particularly when 3D, started to come in. And then moving to the PlayStation platform, I mean, do you remember the first time you saw the PlayStation and what you thought of it?
I loved it because of its capabilities. I did Abe's Oddysee, that was on that platform as well. So it was nice to be able to use the capability of the cinematics with actual gameplay.
Well, tell us how you got involved with the Abe's Oddysee project and working on the PlayStation.
Well, I was working for a small studio called Alexandria Incorporated in Central California at the time, and I just wrapped up a game called Oddysee for US Gold through them. Around that time, Sherry McKenna and Lorne Lanning came to Central California to meet with the owners of Alexandria. They introduced me to Sherry and Lorne and said that they were going to build a new game company and stuff, and they wanted to kind of show them Alexandria and kind of learn what was going on and kind of see if there was some synergy where Lorne and Sherry would produce the graphics and Alexandria would produce the code and, put the game together. But that synergy never worked out. So they decided that they were going to create their own game company called Oddworld. And around that time, I was looking at what Alexandria was doing, and really they were having a big trouble finding another contract. And it looked like they might be closing their doors, because if they can't get work in, we were in big trouble. So I kind of put the word out in the recruiter circle that, I was looking to move on. And Lauren and Sherry found out about it and said, hell no. So they contacted the venture capital company and said, no, we want him designing the gameplay for our product. And that's how I came to work on Abe's Oddysee.
And the design of Abe himself, I mean, he was a departure from platform characters that we've seen before. I mean, we had Furry Sonic the Hedgehog and Little Mario. Then this kind of slimy character came along that was a little bit gross. I mean, what was kind of the thinking behind his design?
Well, all that stuff came from Lauren and his group. So that was already established before I kind of came into the mix. So I really didn't have a hand in that. My job was they came in and they wanted the gameplay, but they needed some common sense on how to do it, because they wanted to make this 3D game, but 3D at the time wasn't capable of the quality of graphics Lauren and Sherry demanded. So what I proposed to them was, well, let's kind of do a hybrid here. We'll do the best rendered graphics we can off these SGI systems, and we'll put them into, this platform game environment, like Flashback, like Out of This World. And to get the illusion that it's a 3D game, what I proposed is we do cinematic cuts between one level section and another. So you get these nice panoramic views of the world as you move from one section to another. And it worked out beautifully.
And that game just had such atmosphere as well. And I think maybe it was the demographic of the PlayStation because, gamers were kind of growing up a little bit, although not too much, because I remember, as a teenage boy, whenever Abe farted, it never got old. It made me laugh every time. So. I mean, was that an idea to make it a bit more mature than the games that came before it in a way?
Well, visually it was going to be more mature, and we knew that the game systems were kind of evolving in the audience. The players were growing up with the systems. So we knew we could do more, but we didn't want to go too crazy and basically alienate the market. So Abe has kind of this cute persona along with kind of the dark world. And even today, it seems like it's still kind of following in there. It's got a bit of that darkness, but it doesn't cross the line where you go, that's kind of grotesque.
Well, during the production, I heard that an executive producer at GT Interactive tried to sabotage the game. I mean, what kind of happened there? That sounds like quite a bit of drama.
Well, yeah, there was a big problem with the way it was being marketed at the time because originally it was pitched to Sony, and I don't know the political dynamics of it, but there was something about Warren trying to negotiate with Microsoft to kind of do it as a Microsoft exclusive. And so there was kind of this waffling back and forth, and I think a lot of publishers felt that they were getting burned. And I think when it ended up at GT, it was kind of like, you know what, we don't like working with Oddworld, we don't like this situation, and how can we kind of drag this on? And I think I heard at the time, I'm not sure, so don't quote this as fact, is they had a 3-project contract with GT Interactive that if they published Abe's Oddysee, they were supposed to do like 3 more games or 2 more games. And they had such a rough time on getting the original Abe's Oddysee out the door that they didn't want to do another 2 projects.
It was just such an unpleasant experience.
Yeah, but I'd left the company by that time, so...
When the game did come out, I mean, Abe's Oddysee was a massive hit. I mean, was it kind of expected that it would be as big as it did?
Oh, yeah, because the feedback we got from even Sony from looking at the design Bible we produced, and the early feedback we got from bringing people in to show them the graphics that were being done and stuff like that was tremendous. I mean, and even when it was showed at E3, the excitement people had for the game was just explosive. So we knew it was going to be a hit. It was just, we just had to get our job done.
Well, he's had a bit of a comeback in recent years. I mean, have you played any of the remakes of Abe's Oddysee?
Not really, no. In some ways, I like it, and in some ways I don't, because Lorne Lanning is such a visionary when it comes to coming up with wacky ideas and stories. And some of the stuff we talked about doing when I worked for him at the company was just phenomenal. And a lot of our kind of strife at the time is I wanted to get the game design done for Abe's Oddysee, and then I wanted to go and start working on the newer ones and the new ideas he had. And he just kept Abe's Oddysee, Abe's Oddysee, Abe's Oddysee. And really he's kind of stuck in that rut in that world. And even the game they did, I think it was called Stranger, kind of still has a bit of that world, Abe's Oddysee world feel to it. But I really wanted to see what Oddworld could do if he just said, look, okay, let's create all these wacky ideal worlds that we've been thinking about. But it's really, over the years, it's just been that same note over and over and over again. And I really, to this day, I would prefer him just going, we made our history with this one, let's move on to something new.
I guess sometimes audience demand can be something you give into, I guess. And I mean, I think even with that as well, bringing back a franchise that, is kind of ingrained in people's nostalgia. Sometimes if you make a departure too much, it can be a bit of a shock to people, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, and you have to be careful because what games were a hit back then may not be up to snuff now. Yeah. You have to know how to